Hey guys, this is MMA Boss Breakdown. Welcome again. If you have not done already, please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. All right, let's get right into this card where we're going to break down the main card to UFC 230, Daniel Cormier versus Derrick Lewis for the heavyweight title. I'm not going to lie, guys. This UFC card is not all that exciting. I know that there were some injuries and some other things that got some shuffling going, but not that exciting. All right, so the first matchup, we got Israel Adesanya versus Derrick Brunson opening up the main card. This is a middleweight bout. Israel is the hot prospect on the rise. It's been hard for me watching him fight in the UFC. I have not been good at calling his fights. We have yet to really see somebody test him, and his level of competition has only stepped up just recently with his last fight. In this matchup, it's a little weird. Derrick Brunson, sometimes he comes out and he's just looks to brawl and bum rush guys and throw caution to the wind, and it works out for him about 50-50. For this fight, I actually think that approach is his best chance to win. If he doesn't do that and he ends up trying to fight a calculated fight, Israel is going to probably pick him apart at kickboxing range and, win an easy decision. I mean, Israel's kickboxing is a lot better than Derrick. Derrick, definitely, he's got the power advantage. He's got the knockout power. Israel does not. He's kind of somebody that just wears you down with a lot of punches and volume over time. He's really good with his kicks to the legs, to the body. He switches stances. He can kick you from anywhere and any place of your body. He's got very fast, straight punches. He puts combinations together pretty well. His movement is pretty good, and his defensive movement is also pretty good. He does kind of get himself into some trouble every now and then with his defense when he gets a little cocky and he doesn't really respect the striking. When he's had some success and he's teeing off or he's landing punches and then somebody looks to counter, he'll kind of do the Anderson Silva bit where he, keeps his feet planted and leans back too far and then leans back and turns to get out of the punches. And he's gotten clipped doing that a couple times. Not clipped to where he got hurt, but if he doesn't give Derrick Brunson any respect and Brunson's throwing them bombs, and he does that little lean action, we could see him get KO'd like Anderson Silva got KO'd against Chris Weidman. It's definitely a possibility, and that's why I say Derrick Brunson should just bum rush him. I don't think Israel has the counter power to really finish Derrick. Obviously, if somebody's charging in and you lace the right counter, it's going to hurt twice as bad because you're running into punches. So Israel might be able to time him well, and he is very good with his timing and is an accurate puncher. So I definitely think that if Derrick's going to be rushing him, he's gonna time that, and he is going to lace him with punches. But Derrick's got to put the pressure on him. We saw in Israel's fight against Vettori that when Vettori finally got fed up getting peppered for 2 rounds and really started to pressure and work the wrestling, Israel got a little tired, and then the striking opened up and Vettori started having success pressuring him back, landing punches, and Israel was trying to do the sway back dip, pivot out of the way, and he ended up getting a little tired, was a little slower. The pressure kind of got to him backing up, and if Derrick Brunson can kind of keep that onslaught up, over 3 rounds, I think that it could wear. But I don't think that Derrick's going to have a lot of success with like takedowns. He is very powerful, but he doesn't have the greatest wrestling technique. I think that if in like tie-ups along the cage and in the clinch, he might be able to get takedowns briefly and work some top control. But Israel is decent at getting back to his feet. But if he can just keep that going and going and going, that is the best game plan. The problem is Derrick doesn't always seem to come to the fight with the best game plan. So it's really a big question mark, like what his approach is going to be to the fight. And I'm like more inclined to lean to pick Israel Adesanya. And like I said, I always pick his fights wrong, but I'm actually not going to pick Israel. I do think that Derrick, like this fight is a little bit heated, and Derrick, I think, is a little stirred up over the fight and has something to prove. Plus, he's coming off of a loss, and I think he's going to come out hard. And I think the pressure is going to kind of wear Israel down. Maybe he gets knocked out, but he's pretty dang tough. I could see Derrick coming on strong like halfway through the second and maybe stealing the round and then taking the third. I think it's going to be a tough fight for both guys. It could be a split, or even a unanimous that seems really, really close. But I'm going to pick against Israel again, against my better judgment here. And I'm going to go with Derrick Brunson by decision. All right, let's move on to the next fight. It is Jack Marshman versus Karl Roberson. Who the fuck are these guys? I mean, I know who they are, but like, who cares? Sorry, guys. I mean, Jack Marshman is a veteran of the sport. He's a tough dude. He's got some legitimate skills, and he deserves to be in the UFC, but he's really just a journeyman. An action fighter. I can see why he's placed on the main card with the amount of with the people that they have in their lineup. Why he got placed on there. They're hoping for an action fight. Karl Roberson doesn't have that many fights in MMA. He's pretty green. He has a small kickboxing background where he lost every single fight. It's questionable whether or not he's even UFC worthy. So the dynamics of this fight, basically, you got the veteran, you got the rookie coming in. Karl Roberson is, very powerful striker. He's got an explosive kicking game. As far as his punches go, he's mostly looking to just set up that left hand. He's quick and dangerous in all positions. We saw on the Contender Series, he finished his fight, which ended up getting him a UFC contract, where he was clinched up against the cage for like 3 or 4 seconds, and he just unleashed a bunch of elbows and knocked this guy out with elbows, short elbows up against the cage. And it was awesome. But, that was against another guy that wasn't that great. But he's dangerous in short, tight areas. He can explode. He's powerful. I've seen him, with some throws too, some grappling that, not a lot of great technique, but a lot of power, a lot of athleticism. So he has that going for him. He's probably more of an athlete than Jack Marshman, but Marshman is super tough. He puts combinations together. He likes to pressure, and Robertson's probably going to want to hang out on the outside and work at kickboxing range. And I think that he's going to have some success there. He is a southpaw, and Marshman's orthodox, so his power kicks are going to have a better clean opening to the body and to the legs. That's going to be a problem for Marshman, but he's just going to walk Roberson down, put punches together, and I think he'll probably end up winning in a decision. So that's my pick, Jack Marshman by decision. Next matchup, we got David Branch versus Jared Cannonier. Cannonier is stepping in short notice. He's like coming in off of I think maybe 2 weeks notice. I think this is his middleweight debut. Probably not the best time to be making his middleweight debut on short notice against a top-ranked dude like David Branch. David Branch, I don't think gets a lot of respect because, he didn't have a very good stint in his first UFC stint. Got bumped out of the UFC and then went 10-1 outside of the UFC. Was World Series of Fighting middleweight and light heavyweight champion. Very, very good fighter, very skilled. He's a bit older now, but he's still fighting really well. We saw him do pretty well against Luke Rockhold in their fight, at least in the first round. He totally put it on him, and then in the second round, he ended up getting finished. But, I mean, he's a legit talent. I don't think that he's ever going to be a title contender unless all the right things happen. But in this matchup, he's definitely got the advantage in experience. Jared Cannonier has not been fighting very long. He's got a lot of power. He started out as a heavyweight, then he ended up coming down as a light heavyweight, and now he's making his middleweight debut. He's not a very tall guy, so this might be the right weight class. I kind of thought that light heavyweight was good for him because he's got some explosive power, but he's not all that fast, and it's not like he doesn't put a lot of combinations together. So at middleweight, you got a mix of those guys that are really quick and can throw a lot of punches. Look at Robert Whittaker, the champion. I mean, Whittaker versus Cannonier. I mean, oh my gosh, Cannonier's so much slower, and he doesn't put things together. That guys like that, and guys like David Branch. David Branch throws in combination. He's active with his jab. He's got a nice counter right hand, an overhand and a straight. Like I said, he puts combinations together well. He can pressure and he can kickbox on the outside, so he can mix things up. He's also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So if this does go to the mat, David Branch has, major advantage. Cannonier can get caught kind of following guys around a little bit and standing right in front of them, and that's not going to go well for him against David Branch. Especially with Branch's jab, I think that he's going to have a lot of success setting up his punches just off that jab. And then as Jared Cannonier gets kind of frustrated and is coming in to look for that overhand right hand, he's probably going to get countered with takedowns. Branch is really good at timing the takedowns. Cannonier's probably best weapon in this fight is his kicks. He's got some really good leg kicks, and he likes to implement that low kick to the calf. And Branch has some chicken legs. So that's the only issue I can see Branch really having is getting kicked. But he's pretty good at catching kicks as well, actually, which I think he probably developed that counter because he can't take a lot of kicks to the legs, so he catches the kicks and gets it to the mat. But he's got some nasty jiu-jitsu, and I think probably he's going to win this fight anywhere he wants it to be, on the feet or on the mat. I'll say David Branch probably going to win, probably by decision, unanimous decision. It should be a nice performance for him. All right, so we got the co-main event, Chris Weidman versus Jacare. And this is a fight that a lot of people have been, fantasizing about for years. And it's a little disappointing to me that it's like, I'm glad that it's actually going to happen, so we will have seen the matchup, but it's sad that it hadn't happened 3 years ago. Both guys are a bit shop-worn at this point. It's hard for me to say who's more shop-worn. Both guys have been finished a couple times in the last few years. Chris Weidman, looks to probably be a little bit more shot. However, Jacare is older, and you can noticeably tell that he's slowing down with his foot speed and his punches. They're just not there anymore. His gas tank is not that great. He's got about a good round and a half, and after that, he really starts to fade. He's lucky this isn't a 5-round fight, because there's no way, I don't think he can go 5 rounds anymore. I think that Chris Weidman's going to have to implement a game plan that's really going to zap the energy of Jacare. Weidman, he prefers to pressure, which I think is going to be good. He's going to want to pressure Jacare. Jacare he's gotten a little bit better at figuring out he needs to conserve his energy. So he'll be looking to land counters and kind of sit back and wait. He likes to stay at kickboxing range if he's not looking to take the fight to the mat. He's got good kicks to the body, good teeps. He'll mix in some leg kicks, some high kicks. We've seen him finish guys like Derrick Brunson with head kick. So his kicking game is pretty good. He's got a nice counter right hook, like a short right hook that he likes to bait people in with. I don't, in the striking matchup, it's pretty even. I mean, neither Chris nor Jacare at this stage in their careers are really like putting a lot of punches together. Chris used to throw better in combination, and he hasn't over the last few years. And I think it's because he's gotten hurt with the striking, that he's a little bit more conservative, and it's the wrong approach. If he comes into this matchup and he's looking to box and throw more combinations, he's going to have a lot more success. Robert Whittaker really pieced Jacare up by throwing a lot of punches. It was just too much for Souza to handle, and it ended up wearing him out physically. Chris is pretty good at mixing up to the body, to the head. He's an underrated kicker himself. As far as the grappling goes, the wrestling advantage is going to be there for Chris. Jacare isn't the best wrestler, but once it goes to the mat, Souza definitely has the advantage. In jiu-jitsu, his sweeps are really good. If he ends up getting top control, it's going to be really bad for Chris. Not that Chris is a slouch on the ground, but we're talking like world champion level Jacare, and an aspiring world championship level Chris Weidman. His wrestling is superb, but they're not the same thing. Chris will just have an easier time getting it to the mat if he wants to, although he's gotten more foot slow over the years. It's been a bit of a problem, and that him being a bit more foot slow, he doesn't have the best timing on some of his takedowns, and we saw him get KO'd by Yoel Romero. He ended up timing those sloppy takedowns that Chris ends up going after and put him out with the flying knee. Jacare, I don't think is going to end up finding a counter like that, but if he goes in for a sloppy takedown, he could leave his neck out there and get guillotined. He could, Jacare has pretty good counter wrestling, and maybe he ends up getting reversed and get his back taken. I think Chris is probably going to work a game where he's looking to kickbox and then clinch against the cage, work his wrestling a little bit, allow Souza to get back up, and then just rinse and repeat, wear his gas tank out, and then come on strong in the later rounds. Because Chris, he's got a pretty good gas tank, definitely a lot better than Souza at this stage. the chin is a bit of a question mark. You know, how much damage can Chris take at this point? He's been either put out or put down. Like in that Gastelum fight, his last fight that he won, he did end up finishing that by submission, but at the end of that first round, he got dropped along the fence, and if there was another like 20 seconds, it's possible he might have ended up getting KO'd. You know, it was more of speed, I think, that caught him off guard. He got caught kind of standing in front of Gastelum, and then Gastelum exploded, and he was very quick because he's a smaller middleweight. And Chris just didn't see the punch coming, and he got put down. But still, you know, after the KOs and then that happening, you know, he does seem to be, you know, he doesn't take damage as well. Souza recovers probably a little bit better after he's been hurt. He got hurt by Yoel Romero, recovered. He also got hurt by Gastelum, recovered and finished out that fight. It's very even. I'm still going to lean Chris, mostly just because of the stamina. I'm going to go with Chris Weidman. Another decision on this card, probably. Yep, that's my pick. Chris Weidman by a decision. All right. Finally, we're at the main event, the championship fight. We got Daniel Cormier versus Derrick Lewis. And we haven't had a whole lot of time to think about this fight. About a month, you know, this fight's been put together. And the fact that this fight hasn't been scheduled very long, and Daniel Cormier hasn't been training very long for this fight, and is coming off of a hand injury that was very much a concern to him at the beginning of his camp, makes this matchup more compelling for me. You know, is he in really good shape? You know, I'm sure that he's going to be in better physical shape as far as like conditioning wise, being able to go for 5 rounds than Derrick Lewis. Although Derrick Lewis is a master at conserving his energy and then using whatever he has left to finish the fight. But, you know, he hasn't been able to punch with that hand except for the last few weeks. You know, has he gotten in good sparring? Has he gotten in good wrestling to be able to use that hand and grab and grapple? It's a major concern against a guy like Derrick Lewis, who, you know, is very, very big. He cuts down to make 265 pounds. He's a lot of mass to handle, and we saw in the Stipe Miocic DC fight that the size difference actually was a bit of a problem for Cormier. The length was giving him problems when they weren't clinched up. Miocic was landing a lot of punches. It was really the clinching that made everything for Daniel Cormier, and he was kind of losing that fight up until, you know, maybe the last 30 seconds before DC ended up finishing the fight. Not that it was like way in Miocic's favor, it wasn't, but he had the edge. I do think that Daniel Cormier, you know, he's obviously the most elite person that Derrick Lewis has ever faced. And his ability to return the fight to the mat is like no other person that he's faced. So I think that Cormier being quick, he's still very fast. We saw that in the Miocic fight. He's still very quick. He moves his head pretty quick still too. He obviously throws very fast punches because he's a smaller heavyweight. He's got to get past the length of Derrick Lewis and the power to get on the inside. Once he's on the inside, he's not going to have a whole lot of trouble getting the fight to the ground. We saw in the Roy Nelson versus Derrick Lewis fight that, you know, it's not that hard to put Lewis on the ground. What's hard is keeping him there, because he'll wait once he's on the mat and it looks like, oh, he's just kind of giving up. He's laying on his back. He's not working for anything. Like, what is Derrick Lewis doing? And, he's even been mounted. And then all of a sudden he just decides, all right, it's time to get up. And he'll like explode and turn his hip over and then get an elbow down. And all of a sudden he just stands up, because he's actually a very like good athlete, and he knows how to use his body well. And if his back's not hurting, and I know he's been getting injections in his back to help his back problems that he's had over the last like 6-7 fights, his ability to get off the mat's probably better right now than it's been in quite a while. And he still was doing that to guys over the last couple of years. So, I don't think that DC is going to necessarily keep him on the mat for long periods of time, but it's more of he's going to, what he needs to do is clinch against the cage, or if he can get open space takedowns, that's great. Put him down. Roy Nelson had success with body lock takedowns, high cross singles. It doesn't take a whole lot to tip him over and put him down once you can get on the inside. And then Cormier will just put him down, pepper him up. Derrick Lewis will work his way up, and DC will clinch and then work that again. Take him, put him down. And I'm just wondering if he's having success like that for a couple rounds but doesn't finish Derrick, is, DC going to tire himself out? I normally would never question is he going to tire himself out, but he hasn't been training for a title fight for more than like 4 weeks. I'm sure, he's a wrestling coach and stuff like that. I'm sure he's been getting in workouts. He is a professional athlete. I don't think that he's out of shape as far as fight standards go, for him. But like ready for a 5-round title fight, it's a problem. Under normal conditions, I would definitely pick DC, I think, without much hesitation. But Derrick Lewis's ability to just conserve energy and weight, and if he can wait out the first couple rounds and just survive, even just getting his face bumped onto the mat over and over and over and over and getting peppered, if he can get to the 3rd and 4th and 5th round, his chances of finishing the fight go way up, because he's finished the fight many times late. He knows how to do it. And, DC's not invulnerable, and especially at heavyweight. I mean, Derrick Lewis can knock out anyone. And Derrick Lewis, he's got powerful kicks, and he's also got really good knees, and he's got good timing on his knees. We've seen it. DC's quite a bit shorter than Derrick Lewis. So those knees, are really going to be able to create a lot of damage on a shorter guy. I could easily see DC, looking to clinch and Derrick tying up and just looking to unload knees. And maybe DC ends up grabbing one of those and putting him to the ground, but it's not going to, if he can get in 1 or 2 before he grabs the 3rd and puts him down, that's going to take a toll. And if Derrick Lewis can survive for a few rounds after doing that, in the small spaces where he's able to get to his feet and explode and create some damage, he's definitely got a chance in this fight, more so than I think people are really giving him. I know everyone's excited for Derrick Lewis to be in this fight because we all love Derrick Lewis for everything that he does, but he's got a legit chance to win, and I'm like so close to picking him. I'm still gonna pick DC. Oh man, I want to pick Derrick. I really do. I really want to pick him. I'm going to pick DC, mostly just because he's a very cerebral fighter. He's very smart. He's very honest with his own abilities and what he can do and the game plan he needs to use to approach the fight. He's going to know exactly where his weaknesses are, and he's going to try to avoid them. And he's got the right style to stifle Derrick. But I don't know if he's going to finish him. I think this one's going to go all 5 rounds. I could see this ending up being kind of a sloppy fight towards the end of the fight. I mean, if DC doesn't KO Derrick, you think he's going to submit him? I don't think that DC is going to be able to get on Derrick Lewis's back without getting shooked off. I don't think he's going to be able to get that rear naked choke. You know, especially because he's a lot heavier now. I mean, not to make fun of the dude, but I mean, he's gotten way fatter. Like he's even heavier than he was in his last fight, and that wasn't that long ago. You know, weighing in, that belly is in his own way for those chokes that he likes to go. Is he gonna Kimura Derrick Lewis? Is he gonna armbar him? You know, he's gonna have a hard time finding a submission that's gonna work on a guy that's so big and powerful like Derrick. So I don't think that he's gonna get his submission finish that he likes to get on guys when they get tired. His best chance to finish is going to be getting a TKO. You know, if he can actually hold Derrick down and just pepper him, get the ref to step in because Derrick doesn't know how to get himself off the mat, and, you know, maybe he could pin him and crucifix or something like that. That's his best avenue. And if he can do that early, that's better, because the longer this fight goes, like I'm saying, Derrick has a real chance the longer this fight goes, he can finish. And I said it the last time against Volkov that Volkov was going to get the best of him probably right up until Derrick was going to finish him, and it ended up taking like the last 10 seconds of the fight for him to finally do it, but he ended up doing it. And Derrick Lewis has the same chance in this fight. But I'm going to pick Daniel Cormier by decision, 5 rounds. And I think this one's going to be kind of like when it's all over, we're going to be like, what the fuck did we just watch? Like, this was ridiculous. Like, this was way harder for DC than we thought it was going to be. So, there it is, guys. That's the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching again. Please subscribe to my channel and like the video. And we'll see you on the next one. All right. Have a good night.